Hello, my name is Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com. I was meant to do the What Happened at Greatest Royal Rumble, but unfortunately I've had an awful lot to drink, so I'm tagging in my best friend Jack the Jobber to fill in for me. Thanks to everyone who tuned in to our live stream. We had like an unbelievable amount of fun. We all thought that this was going to be a glorified house show, and in some aspects it was. But at the same time, I think it was really fun to watch, especially towards the end.
It was fun.
It was fun. It was fun. So I'm tagging in Jack the Jobber at this point. This is what happened at the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Facing off, I'm drunk as well, facing off against Triple H, the King of Kings, the Game. They came out and had, Adam mentioned in the intro that there were some aspects of the show that felt a little bit house showy. And this was one of the matches, I think you'll agree, that were definitely a little bit house show-esque, I guess. Cena and Triple H. When Cena made his entrance, the camera cut to Triple H high-fiving the fans in the front row. I don't know if he knew the camera was on him. It was a little bit strange to see, considering he was playing the heel in this match. He and Cena had a slow-paced, yet exciting, I guess, opening match. It was a bit strange to see two megastars opening the show, but at the same time, it was quite entertaining as well. Triple H did the "You Can't See Me" taunt. He did it a couple of times, I think, and at one point even tried to hit the "You Can't See Me" 5-knuckle shuffle fist drop, but his own version of it, where he went "suck it" and then hit him with the fist into the forehead. Later on, Triple H hit, Cena first of all hit the AA, and Triple H kicked out just at the last second. We all bought it as well. Then Cena hit the AA, Triple H kicked out, and then Cena eventually won the match with an AA into a slingshot into the turnbuckle, and then another AA, and picked up the victory. From this moment on, Adam Pacitti, I'm sure, will vouch that his predictions contest was over. Because Cena had won the opening match, I can see you smiling there, and then that meant he wasn't probably going to win the Greatest Royal Rumble. As it turned out, he didn't even enter the Greatest Royal Rumble, but it's all good. Triple H lost, which I find a bit concerning considering his lack of momentum, but then again, it is Triple H, he'll never not be over. Neither was Cena, but it was nice to see him pick up a big crowd-pleasing victory to start the show. Next up, the Cruiserweight Championship match between the champions Cedric Alexander and the winner of the 205 Live Gauntlet, Kalisto. This was maybe, from a pure moves and technical sort of bumping and all that sort of thing, from a work rate standpoint, this was the best match on the show. Both Cedric and Kalisto really showed why they are such highly regarded wrestlers from a pure work rate standpoint. I feel as though the result kind of held this back a little bit, as it did for many matches on the show, in terms of like what's predictable. You know, the result of this match was quite predictable, considering that Cedric had only won the belt at WrestleMania 34 and was never going to lose it in his first title defense. But to be fair to them, they did have a good go of making it a back and forth, unpredictable contest if you didn't know the background of it. In a vacuum, it was unpredictable. Because we knew the context of it, it was kind of predictable that Cedric was going to win. But I don't want to let that take away from the match quality. I feel like Cedric did particularly well. Cedric is a master, I tweeted this during the show, he is a master of taking a move and bumping a little bit over the top for a big move, but not going too far over the top that he turns into someone else like Dolph Ziggler or someone. I don't want to say that about Dolph, I don't want to say that, but you know what I mean. Kalisto was really good at it as well, and his sell for the final, what does he call it? His finisher? Lumbar check. That's right, you mouthed it to me, didn't you? His sell for the final lumbar check was a little bit over the top, but it worked perfectly in the context of the match, and predictably somewhat, Cedric picked up the victory and retained his Cruiserweight Championship. Next up, the Raw Tag Team Championship match, the vacant Raw Tag Team Championship match between the former champions, who of course lost it at WrestleMania 34, The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, against Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, my personal best friend. Don't laugh at me for that. Matt and Bray pretty much, I guess in a way, this was a little bit of a showcase for Matt and Bray. I thought this was maybe one of the easiest matches to predict now that The Bar are over on SmackDown. I didn't think they'd go the convoluted route of bringing the SmackDown guys back over to Raw to hold the belt again that they once used to hold. It was all a bit too complicated for me. So I kind of thought, yes, this is one of the more predictable matches on the show. Matt and Bray are certainly going to win. But at the same time, as our reactions on the stream will vouch for, this was kind of exciting in the way that we still enjoy Bray and Matt as a tag team. They're very fresh. They're very exciting in terms of everyone's been desperate for Bray to have something to get his teeth into for a long time, for years now. And at the same time, we were all eager for Matt Hardy to finally fully embrace the whole broken or woken gimmick that he originated back in Impact Wrestling. The pair won, the babyfaces won, with that sort of wheelbarrow twist of fate they've started doing and picked up the win. It was one of the more predictable matches on the show, but at the same time, I can't fault them for how they went about it in terms of booking. It was kind of booked the only way it could have been, and I can't dumb them down for that. I can't really criticize them too much for that. I think it was fine. And Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt are your new Raw Tag Team Champions. Next up, the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match between the Bludgeon Brothers, Harper and Rowan, the reigning champions, against the former champions, the Usos. This match only lasted about 5 minutes, which I thought was a little bit surprising considering the speed with which the Bludgeon Brothers won the titles at WrestleMania 34. I thought this one would go on a little bit longer, particularly considering that the Usos have been in the form of their career over the past year or so. However, the Bludgeon Brothers won it in fairly short order. The Usos came out with a lot of fire. They were hitting suicide dives all over the place and that sort of thing, but at the same time the Bludgeon Brothers are being pushed now. They are the team on SmackDown Live, so I wasn't too surprised when they picked up the victory. I was just a little bit surprised how quickly they picked up the victory. Now that we know that Sanity are coming up to SmackDown Live, I think that we could see a really good feud between those guys if they are pushing Sanity as babyfaces, which I kind of hope they do, because Killian Dane is a lovely, lovely man, and I'm sure the rest of them are as well. But I think it was no real shock that the Bludgeon Brothers retained here. It was one of those matches that we had to kind of get through to get to the more star-powered matches on the card, but at the same time, it was totally fine, and the Bludgeon Brothers retained the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Next up, the 4-way ladder match for the Intercontinental title. That was the champion Seth Rollins versus Finn Bálor versus 2 SmackDown superstars, The Miz, who was drafted over from the Superstar Shakeup, and Samoa Joe was as well, and Samoa Joe as well. This was okay. Right, this was a good match and one of the best ones on the show, but at the same time, when you hear the stipulation ladder match and you see the caliber of the superstars involved, you kind of expect, I sound really harsh saying this, but you kind of expect something a little bit more than maybe what we saw. I mean, I don't want to fault any guy in this match. Obviously, they had one of the hardest jobs on the show. They had arguably the most dangerous match in the whole thing to pick up a paycheck, whereas some guys could come out and get quickly eliminated in the Rumble. These guys really had to go out and bust their asses. But at the same time, I tweeted that this wasn't a ladder match. It was a match with a ladder. Halfway through I said that. The second half of the match was better than the first, and it really did incorporate the ladders more in the stipulation and trying to grab the belt and everything. And I will say as well, the finish was absolutely excellent, spot on. Not only did it make Seth Rollins look amazing, it also set up a potential renewal of the feud between Rollins and Bálor in the future. For those who missed it, basically what happened was Rollins took a bump on the outside and was out there for a long time, just watching the other 3 guys compete. And eventually Bálor looked like he had the belt won, and then Rollins kind of springboard. Was it a springboard? Did he springboard off the top rope?
Yeah.
I think he did. We kind of missed it because we were having such a great time. Rollins springboarded into the ring, landed on the ladder, quickly scaled it, and grabbed the title from out of Finn Bálor's grasp. He was almost about to reach it, but Rollins just came in and snatched it from him. And the important thing afterwards to notice is that the camera really lingered on Bálor, and noticed his really disappointed expression. He looked gutted, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a massive, big, marquee pay-per-view match, maybe with a stipulation. I'd love to see a ladder match between Rollins and Bálor, but I think we're going to get some kind of showdown between the two in the near future. Seth Rollins retains the Intercontinental Championship. Next up, right, this was really interesting. Shinsuke Nakamura versus the champion, the WWE champion, AJ Styles, in a rematch from WrestleMania 34. Obviously, if you saw WrestleMania, at the end of that match, Shinsuke Nakamura feigned as though he was going to give respect to AJ and then hit him with a big low blow and turned heel. And since then, he's just been punching AJ in the private area. AJ and Shinsuke wrestled a much better match this time, in my personal opinion, than the WrestleMania 34 match. They incorporated the outside a lot more. There was a big whole sort of spot over the announce table where it all looked a bit chaotic and anarchic. It was really good. I think the in-ring action as well was a lot better. It was a lot better paced. The crowd weren't yet as burned out because obviously at WrestleMania this match came quite late on in the card. This time it came sort of halfway through. It wasn't a patch obviously on their Wrestle Kingdom match, but at the same time that was far more work rate orientated. This one was a bit more sports entertainment-y. I personally predicted and so did Adam Pacitti, that at some point in the match, Nakamura would go to low blow AJ would be wearing a cup, Nakamura would sell the arm, and then something else would happen, maybe AJ would retain. But at the same time, that didn't happen. Nakamura did low blow him, but then what did he do? He gets his feet on the ropes, I think?
Yes.
Yes, he got his feet on the ropes, AJ. Oh, he grabbed them. He grabbed the ropes with his hands. So that wasn't the finish. The finish was a very curious one indeed. Not one that many people agreed with. The sort of finish that I think they booked because they didn't want the belt to change hands, but at the same time, they didn't want AJ to cleanly retain and take away Shinsuke's momentum. They had a double count out, which at a show of this size was, to be honest, a little bit disappointing, to be fair. But I understand that they kind of booked themselves into a corner. So I see why it happened, but I wasn't too pleased about it. Next up, it was the casket match. Now, I've watched every single televised Undertaker casket match in the history of The Undertaker in WWE, because I wrote a list on Cultaholic.com, which you can check out now, where I ranked them all in terms of quality, and this match was very paint by numbers in terms of casket matches. The Undertaker and Rusev had no build to it. It was kind of a tricky prospect for both guys because they had no history to draw upon either, but I guess it was okay. It was acceptable. It was kind of predictable as well. Undertaker basically dominated until Aiden English got involved and tried to distract him. English obviously ate a tombstone, and we had the big feel-good finish of Undertaker hurling English and Rusev into the casket at the same time and slamming the lid shut. I wonder what this means for Rusev, because he was beaten pretty comprehensively, and WWE still refused to turn him face despite the monstrous reception he gets from crowds all over the place on SmackDown every single week. We all knew that he wasn't going to win here. He wasn't going to beat The Undertaker, for goodness sake. But at the same time, maybe he could have had a better showing of himself. He got in a little bit more offense than maybe people would have imagined. He slapped on the accolade at one point, but it was a pretty clean loss. And I'm not going to say he looks weak because he was in a match with The Undertaker, but he was dispatched with pretty easily. I hope that Rusev's push continues after this, but I don't know if it will. The Undertaker picked up a big victory. Should he have returned from retirement? Or should he have returned so soon after WrestleMania 34? Probably not, but it was inoffensive. Next up, maybe the most speculated upon match in this whole network special, apart from maybe the Greatest Royal Rumble itself, but at the same time, maybe not. There was a lot of social media activity on this match. Will Brock drop the belt? Will Roman win it when he couldn't do at WrestleMania? It was, of course, the steel cage match for the Universal Championship between Lesnar and Reigns. Now, this match, I think it's fair to say, was a lot more even than the match at WrestleMania. I think then, at WrestleMania, Roman was obviously busted open horribly and took about 5 or 6 F5s before he was put to 5 or 6.
Kicked out of 5.
Kicked out of 5. It still sounds crazy. He didn't take that many this time. He took a lot of suplexes, but at the same time, he fought back a lot. There were a lot of Superman punches, a couple of spears as well. And at one point, he almost had the match won when he made for the cage door. Then we got maybe the second most memorable spot of the match, apart from the finish, of course, where Roman was about to escape and win the Universal Championship, and then Heyman got involved and slammed the door shut in his face, which obviously hit Roman, and he took a bump back into the ring. This is one of the first times Heyman has become physically involved in a match for a number of years. I can't remember the last time. Maybe it was during Brock's feud with CM Punk. Maybe it was that long ago. I actually can't remember, but it was a good spot, raised the intensity of the match, and now, obviously, I'm going to have to talk about the finish. The finish of the match was easily the most controversial, talked about moment of the entire show. Basically, what happened was, Roman, I can't even think about it without laughing. Roman Reigns set Brock Lesnar up for a spear, speared him into the cage wall collapsed. Both men fell to the outside. Lesnar landed on the mesh of the cage wall, because obviously it collapsed away. Lesnar landed on it back first. Roman landed on top of him and rolled off to the floor. Everyone was thinking, obviously, Roman's won. He's won the Universal Championship because he's rolled off, landed on the floor first, and they announced that Brock Lesnar had retained the championship. Did his skin come through the mesh? Was there a mesh-spiracy, a skin-spiracy? Or was this just a mis-executed, albeit very difficult spot? I don't know. I know that my colleague, Mr. Adam Pacitti, was furious with the outcome.
Shambles. Absolute shambles. Both feet touched the floor in a cage match.
We can confirm, no matter how many replays they showed, no matter from how many different angles, that Lesnar's feet did not touch the floor. Roman's feet did first. He rolled off it. Is this a ploy, as Sam said, to garner sympathy for Roman? You know, like, he should have won, he's been screwed out of it? Or do you think it was just WWE assuming that everyone would think that Lesnar had touched the floor first, even though he was lying on a section of steel cage? Would his skin have gone through the mesh? What?
Bollocks!
Right, bollocks. And finally, the Greatest Royal Rumble itself, the 50-man Greatest Royal Rumble. Not just the match that decided the inaugural winner of the Greatest Royal Rumble, and the Greatest Royal Rumble Championship, that natty green belt that was displayed just before the match. You laughing at the word natty?
A little bit.
Cool. Not just that, but also the match to decide the Cultaholic Heavyweight Champion. You may have noticed that I'm not wearing the title at the moment, and we'll get to that in just a second. I'm devastated. Now, just to run you through what we all predicted for this match, Adam Pacitti had John Cena, who wasn't even in the match. He wasn't even in the match. He wasn't even in the match, Adam.
Piss off. Carry on.
I had Daniel Bryan, and Sam's entrance came in later, and I won't spoil it for now. You can watch a little bit more of my insight, and then I'll reveal who he had. But I had Daniel Bryan, who came out number 1 and lasted until the final 3. He lasted, I've got the page up now, according to Wikipedia, which has obviously been updated tonight by some rogue wrestling fan, 1 hour, 16 minutes and 5 seconds. That sounds pretty accurate, I guess.
Yeah.
He lasted a long old time. He was doing the road dog strategy a lot, of hanging onto the bottom rope and selling, but he also did some scary near elimination spots where he was kind of holding onto the ropes and leaning right to the outside. He lasted a long time. He had to remember so much as well. He had various different interactions with various different guys entering at different numbers, and obviously there were 50 men. So Daniel Bryan, fair play to him, but ultimately, as you can tell, I'm not wearing the gold. He didn't win the match. Someone else did. Let's find out what happened in this bout. Now, obviously, there were 50 men, and I'm quite drunk. I'm not going to go through every single person who entered, but I'll run down a few of the key ones now as I look to my, not auto queue, I was going to say auto queue. We haven't got an auto queue. Are they expensive? We can't afford one.
We can't afford one.
Are they expensive?
Yeah.
Right, the first mystery or surprise or noteworthy entrant was Mark Henry, the now WWE Hall of Famer, who came in to a nice reception. The thing with Mark Henry is basically, no matter how old he gets, and no matter how long it's been since we've seen him, Mark Henry is a huge human being. He's a massive man. He's one of the world's strongest men, as he was billed as in the prime of his career. That means that whenever he enters a match, he is a threat, no matter when he does it. And he was certainly a threat in this match, but he was not the most notable entrant. Right, I say notable. There were some entrants in this match who, I'll be honest, this makes me sound terrible, I'd never heard of.
No,
never heard. Let's go through them right now. Hiroki Sumi, a sumo wrestler who was a tall lad. Like, apparently he was trained by Akibono, who obviously faced Big Show at WrestleMania one time. And Akibono was almost as tall as Big Show. Sumo wrestlers kind of run the risk of looking a bit short because they're so wide, but at the same time, you forget, Akibono was nearly as tall as Big Show, which is terrifying. This lad was pretty tall as well. Apparently he was 6'4", 6'3". I'd never heard of him. I googled him. This is terrible journalism. I couldn't find anything about him, but he was an entrant in the match. Didn't make too much of an impression. Who did he eliminate? He had no eliminations.
No one.
Hiroki Sumi. Maybe we'll see him fairly soon. That was rubbish. Fairly soon. That was awful. Then we had guys like Victor, Kofi Kingston, whose his spot wasn't really an elimination spot this year, or this time. It was kind of a pre-elimination spot that saved him from the chance of being eliminated, but it didn't save him from an elimination itself. Basically, Woods was on the apron, Kofi got thrown over as well, but landed on his back, and then he and Woods climbed up to the turnbuckle, like Woods sort of piggybacked Kofi up to the top turnbuckle, but that wasn't really the spot that involved their elimination. It was certainly the strangest one I've seen so far, and kind of the most, this sounds critical, the most slapdash one I've seen. It didn't seem to have quite the same spotlight on it as any of the other ones, as any of his other Royal Rumble elimination escape spots have. Hornswoggle also made an entrance, and honestly, when he came out, the camera cut to some guys in the crowd and they were going insane. Hornswoggle's entrance maybe got the most excited reaction of the night. Everyone was like, yeah, Hornswoggle's out. And not only was he involved in the Greatest Royal Rumble, he also had an elimination as well, or he kind of assisted in an elimination. Dash Wilder was being held over the ropes by Daniel Bryan. Hornswoggle just grabbed a limb and just helped yank him out. That's an elimination for Hornswoggle. Get in this match. He didn't last very long. He was eliminated pretty soon. The next surprise entrant was Tucker Knight, one half of Heavy Machinery, a hulking, monstrous NXT tag team. It was surprising actually to see Tucker Knight in this match without the other half of Heavy Machinery, but in fairness, he did get an elimination. He eliminated Drew Gulak of 205 Live, Adam Pacitti's MVP of 205 Live, as you said. You did, you said it. I'm not trying to, you said that.
Yeah, and I love Drew.
Good guy. He's a good guy. Rey Mysterio also came out to a huge pop, obviously, because it's Rey and everyone loves him. He will be eternally popular. He came out, was eventually eliminated by Baron Corbin, who specialises in ruining fun things, I guess. But it was nice to see Rey back. I'm just going to get a bit indie right now and say, not indie, but non-WWE right now, and say, what does this mean for Rey Mysterio's New Japan return? Does this mean that he will or that he won't? Because Rey has promised that he will wrestle Jushin Thunder Liger after their scheduled match was delayed due to Rey's bicep injury. He also may have a match against Marty Scurll, who jumped him during that show as well. But for now, looks like Rey's back in WWE, unless this was a one-show deal. 3 more NXT guys entered the Rumble as well. Roderick Strong, who we all know. Baba Tunde, who we all know. We all know him.
Big time.
Apparently he's Leo Rush's bodyguard on the house show circuit, which is fine, that's fair enough. Does that mean Leo Rush is a heel if he's got a bodyguard? I guess so. Yeah. Your voice is dead. And also Dan Mather, I never quite know how to say that. A 6'8" gentleman from the Performance Center. So it was nice to see those guys in the ring, but at the same time, I honestly think that these surprise entrants felt a little bit jarring, a little bit strange. They just seemed out of context. They just seemed thrown in. It was nice to see them. Commentary could have elaborated a little bit more, or maybe they did, and we were just drunk and didn't listen to them. I don't know. But none of the guys lasted particularly long or had too much of a bearing on the match. But it was nice to see Roddy in there, and maybe this hints at a potential future main roster call-up for the newest member of the Undisputed Era. Braun Strowman came out of 41 and just started eliminating people left, right and centre. We had to do a lot of drinking. I'm going to drink for the very mention of him eliminating people. And then we had the final mystery entrant in the Greatest Royal Rumble, the final surprise entrant, really. That's more accurate. The Great Khali. And the Great Khali did his one move, which is a big overhand chop. Big chop, and then, well, he didn't last very long, did he, at all? He was eliminated by the combination of Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman, 2 big lads. I thought at this point that Lashley could go on to win the Rumble, but Bryan was still in there as well, and my heart and soul and Cultaholic Heavyweight Championship were all hoping that he would win. Lashley was also eliminated by Braun. Shane McMahon came along. Oh man, I've totally forgotten as well. Kurt Angle came in, put the ankle lock on Daniel Bryan, and then got eliminated by
Elias!
He did! He bloody did! Elias had quite the rub in this match. He lasted for quite a long time. Got a couple of eliminations as well. Fair play, Elias. He even faked out his whole insulting the home crowd song. He just put his guitar down, ran in, started eliminating people. Elias's head was in the game. Angle got eliminated by him as well. Shane McMahon, the SmackDown commissioner, came in, and right. So Shane was just portrayed as just another wrestler, which is fine. It's fine. I found it a little bit distasteful. I don't want to even think about what Ross thought of it. And tried his best, and then took the single most unnecessary high spot bump I've ever seen in my life. Was it Strowman who did it? I think it was. Shane got on the top rope, Strowman got him by the throat, threw him through the announce table. Shane, you didn't need to do that. This is the Greatest Royal Rumble. It's not WrestleMania. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. I remember Undertaker doing this to Shane about 18 years ago when I was a smaller boy. And I just think Shane doesn't need to do that. He didn't need to do that at all. What a silly man. It popped the crowd, but you're happy about it. Adam loves it. Well done, Shane. You made Adam Pacitti a very happy man. The final 2 entrants were Big Cass and Chris Jericho. Big Colin Cassidy and Big Christopher Jericho. Jericho wasn't too much of a surprise as the 50th entrant because he'd done an interview earlier in the night. I think they should have probably just not announced him for it, but they did ahead of time, I guess, because he was originally in the casket match with Undertaker. And then Rusev was put back into that match. Jericho ended at number 50, which made him feel like a big deal, which of course he is. This is when everything started to sort of clear out a little bit more. And the final three, were Strowman, Big Cass, and Daniel Bryan. Jericho was one of the many victims of Braun Strowman. At this point, obviously, because Bryan was my pick, I really wanted him to win. And instead of winning, well, Bryan was eliminated by, was it Strowman or Cass? I'm sorry, I can't remember. I think it was Strowman. You don't know either. You don't know. I'm just going to scroll up on my little notes here. It was Big Cass. Building up to the Backlash match and ruining my chances of retaining the Cultaholic Heavyweight Championship. Well, not quite, because if Big Cass had won, then Sam's pick of Braun Strowman wouldn't have won. But you'll never guess what. Out of the not very over Big Cass and the very over Braun Strowman, guess who won? It was Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman won the match and became not only the first ever Greatest Royal Rumble winner, but also the winner of what am I trying to say here? The inaugural Greatest Royal Rumble champion. What was that belt about?
Very green.
Will it be defended?
Who knows?
I honestly don't know, but Braun won it. And then when Braun got in the ring, I think you were at the toilet at this point, because Sam pointed out that we should have all guessed who was going to win if we just looked at the size of the trophy, because it was massive. And the only person who could have lifted that, realistically, was Braun Strowman. Vince was even in the ring for the presentation of the trophy, and Braun got his big feel-good moment. I can't begrudge him that, apart from costing me the title, because Braun has improved leaps and bounds over the past year or two, and has become one of the most organically over superstars on the WWE roster. Fair play, Braun. I'd have preferred it if Bryan had won from number one, because I'd still be the champion, but he didn't. Strowman deserves it, definitely, and he's a very believable winner as well. Who's going to win a big match with 50 guys all trying to throw each other over the top rope? The guy who's over 7 feet tall? It makes sense. In terms of the quality of the Rumble itself, it was obviously long, and there was a lot of filler because it had 50 men in it, but at the same time there was a lot of fun stuff. You know, I've forgotten to mention Titus.
Oh no!
Titus O'Neil, bless his soul, bless his heart, ran down for his entrance and did the thing that we all dread doing on sports day or during school assembly when you're coming up to receive some kind of award. I was a nerd. No, Titus slipped on the way down the ramp and didn't just slip and sort of stumble a little bit. He properly fell onto his front and...
They replayed it 4 times. 5 times?
Ribs. The wrestling business loves ribbing.
Oh.
Fell and slid under the ring almost. And then just sort of had to get up and pretend that nothing had happened and get back in the ring. It was. I honestly feel bad for him, because that's the most noteworthy moment of his WWE career so far.
He kissed his son on the lips.
He did kiss his son on the lips. Okay.
I think I'll probably do it.
Okay. But yes, as I said, the Rumble was an okay one. A lot of filler. Braun Strowman won, not only the trophy, but that weird title as well. Is that going to be defended? Who knows? Titus, I'm going to take a drink for you right now because I feel really bad for you. And that was the Greatest Royal Rumble. Thank you to everyone for watching our stream, especially everyone who donated. We don't expect that, but thank you very much. And yeah, there's not much more to say. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. He has been Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com. You can follow him at Adam Pacitti. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. And if you want, you can check out our Patreon as well. Patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, obviously, say it with me, to join us.